can you use ChatGPT for Islamic questions? So for example, can you say, is this halal? Is this haram? What's the meaning of this concept? What's the meaning of that concept? What do you advise me to do if my mother did this to me or my friend did that to me? Should I cut them off? This is actually a very important topic to discuss because AI has literally become an integral part of our daily lives. And the reality is many Muslims actually use AI for their Islamic matters. So all I ask of you is that you really pay attention until the very end, because I'm going to say many things and the explanation I'm going to give you is actually going to be quite shocking as well. You see, OpenAI recently did a podcast, and the CEO of ChatGPT himself, the one who knows exactly how ChatGPT works, he said in the podcast, and I quote, "People have a very high degree of trust in ChatGPT, which is interesting because AI hallucinates." Now, the meaning of AI hallucination is that it gives you wrong answers or it makes up information, but at the same time, it says it in a convincing way as if it's certain about what it's saying. So it's a hallucination. You see what I mean? And then the CEO, he said after that, word for word, he said, it should be the technology that you don't trust that much. This is the CEO of ChatGPT. And subhanAllah, what he said, of course, because he's the one that manufactured it, has actually been confirmed by scientific studies. In one study, researchers gave different AI models more than 75,000 prompts. And depending on the model that it used, between 59% and 82% of the responses were just wrong, factually incorrect. That's almost all answers to the 75,000 prompts it was given being wrong. Think about that. In another study, researchers, they asked AI 817 questions across different categories. So for example, things like health or law or finance or conspiracies, fiction, many different categories. And when humans answered these questions, they got the answer correct 94% of the time. But when AI did it, 58% only. Meaning it gave wrong answers to nearly half of the questions. And that was for the most advanced AI model, which at the time of the study was GPT-3. And what's even more dangerous is that the responses weren't just wrong, they were confident and convincing. And you guys know this better than me. When you type a question to AI, it responds in a way where it's so sure about what it's saying. It speaks with conviction to the point where you genuinely believe what you're reading and you are propelled to act upon it. You see? And so these two studies, they show you clearly that AI is not to be trusted for general knowledge. But since we're talking about Islamic knowledge, there's also tests to show the exact same thing. If you guys know of One Path Network, which is a very famous YouTube channel that covers Islamic topics, one of the brothers, he flew out to Mauritania and he went to see the scholars in the desert. And one of the scholars that he went to was a master of the Arabic language. So they explained to him what ChatGPT was, because at the time it wasn't really, you could say, known in that area. And when he explained it, he actually gave him AI to speak to. And so this scholar of the Arabic language of Islam asked AI a question in Arabic grammar. And when it finished speaking, and you can literally hear in the video just how confident the AI was when it was speaking, when he finished, the scholar literally said, it has no idea what it's talking about. It didn't even answer my question. Yeah, it was so convincing sounding. But because he's a scholar, he could differentiate between right from wrong. And subhanAllah, this model that was used was the recent GPT-4 model, in case anyone wants to say that GPT-3 in the last study is something that's way worse than GPT-4. But the point is, it got it wrong. And even me, myself, when I use ChatGPT to check like references, for example, it sometimes gets those references wrong. Like it says, this is chapter 14, verse 53. I check it, it's not. Or I've asked it to recall certain verses in the Quran or certain hadiths. And not only does it misquote them sometimes, but it even creates fake verses. I've had this personally happen to me. It creates fake verses in the Quran and fake teachings of the Prophet ﷺ. So how about me and you, when we ask it questions about the halal and the haram, or to give us Islamic advice, or to explain complex topics in things like usul fiqh, and so on and so forth? Of course, it's going to be bound to make mistakes. So that begs the question, does that mean we cannot use AI at all for Islamic matters? Because this is what we're trying to discuss, right? Is it feasible to say to everyone, hey, completely abandon AI when it comes to Islamic matters? It depends. Let's suppose that AI was 100% authentic, okay? Right, really focus with me. Let's say AI was 100% authentic. It only ever pulled data from authentic sources. It only went to scholarly books and pulled data from that. Just imagine that for a moment. And let's suppose it never made up information as well. So it has this mechanism of protection against fabricated information and information that is not authentic. Can we use AI in that case? Well, if you think about it, what I've described right now is essentially like reading books. Because an AI model like this that takes only from authentic books is like you going to the book and reading it, right? And so we can liken this scenario to reading books. In which case, the scholars have made it extremely clear what happens to the one who seeks knowledge from books and only books. There's many commentaries from the scholars throughout the years about what happens to the one who seeks knowledge only from books. من كان شيخه كتابه فخطأه أكثر من صوابه. Whoever's teachers is the book, whoever's sheikh is the book. Meaning, if you only study from the book and the book is your sheikh, your mistakes are more than your correct statements. Your mistakes are more than your correct statements. How deep is that? If you seek knowledge only from books, then you're going to be wrong more than you're right. And if you think about it rationally, it makes sense. Would you trust a heart surgeon that said to you, hey, I have training, but my only training is YouTube videos and books from the library? Would you trust him with your heart? Absolutely not. What if that person misread something? What if that person misinterpreted something? What if that person misunderstood something and there was no one there to correct his understanding? And so if that's the case with a heart surgeon, how about seeking knowledge for your spiritual heart yourself? Something that's going to save your dunya and your akhirah as well. You need to have a teacher. And that's why many are the scholars who even wrote poems about the importance of having a teacher as well. For example, there's a poem which goes, يظن الغمر أن الكتب تهدي أخا فهم لإدراك العلوم وما يدري الجهول بأن فيها غوامض حيرت عقل الفهيم إذا رمت العلوم بغير شيخ ضللت عن الصراط المستقيم وتلتبس الأمور عليك حتى تصير أضل من توم الحكيم. Very powerful poem. And this poet essentially says, the ignorant one, the one that has no knowledge, is the one that thinks that books will guide you, a person of intellect, to knowledge. But he doesn't realize that within these books are subtleties that confuse even the wise. Even the wise people, when they look into books, it confuses them sometimes. And then the poem says, if you seek knowledge without a teacher, you will stray from the straight path, sirat al-mustaqim. And then he says, matters will become so mixed up for you that you'll end up more misguided than a man named Toma. Now this is the poem. Who was Toma? Toma was a man, and this is very important for you guys to understand. Toma was a man who had poor vision. And one time he came across a hadith in the book. And this hadith was, Al-habbata as-sawda'a shifa'un min kulli da'. That black seed is a cure for all diseases except death. You've probably heard this hadith before. Now, because of his poor vision, and he read it in a book, he thought that habba said hayya, al-hayyat as-sawda, which means black snake, not black seed. So then he went to the people and he said, guys, black snakes are a cure for all diseases except death. He's literally preaching to everyone that black snakes are the cure for all diseases except death. And so as you can imagine, he lived his life thinking that being bit by black snakes or eating black snakes is a cure to all diseases. And so his misinterpretation of the hadith could have cost him his life. Imagine he comes across a black snake and it's poisonous and he lets it bite him thinking it's a cure for all diseases. But the fact that he gained that knowledge from the book and he got the wrong knowledge, it could have led him into his grave. And so this is the example of the one who does not have a teacher and relies on their own intellect, their own interpretations, their own understanding, and just Islamic books and YouTube videos in general. This is the example of that person. And so the reality is you need to have an Islamic teacher. The entire Islamic tradition passed down from teacher to student to teacher to student for more than 1400 years, starting from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Do we really think that we can do things differently? And Allah even confirms this in the Quran. لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Allah says in the Quran that He's done the believers a great favor by sending them messengers. And what's their purpose? To recite to them the revelations to purify them, give them tazkiyah, and to teach them the book and wisdom. To teach them the book. Not to give them a book and get them to read it. And then Allah says, وَإِن كَانُوا مِن قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. For indeed they have previously been astray. Meaning the only way for you to not be astray is to gain that teaching from a teacher and not from the books directly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. And so, subhanAllah, this should show you just how important it is to have an Islamic teacher at all times. Not a day should pass except that you have an Islamic teacher that teaches you how to worship Allah properly, that cleanses you of incorrect misinterpretations, and the list goes on. And so, to go back to the topic at hand, and to give you a full comprehensive answer, because this is about AI, right? Can we use AI for our Islamic questions? The answer is no, absolutely not, unless you have an Islamic teacher. In which case, you can use ChatGPT to perhaps recall information you've studied with your teacher, or to re-explain something that you've studied with him, because in that case, you'll have a baseline of knowledge and you'll be able to identify any AI hallucinations if they come up. And if you're unsure about something you've read, then you can always go back to your teacher and double check. And if you think about it, it's fair to say that you guys, you sisters at Muslim Lighthouse, you've benefited from this, right? I mean, the session we're in right now is to address your questions which you're unsure about, which you might have seen online or you might have got from AI, right? But of course, because this video is going to go online, I'm going to make a disclaimer, and this is also for you if you decide to leave Muslim Lighthouse in the future. If you leave Muslim Lighthouse, or if you're someone that doesn't have a teacher, then wallahi, I cannot emphasize enough that you must do everything in your ability to find one and to stick to them, no matter what. Go to your masjid, find an institute, or even an online platform, like Muslim Lighthouse, for example. Sign up, go to the masjid, find a teacher, build a relationship with them and study from them, because they have taken it from someone who's taken it from someone who's taken it from someone, all the way to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And we cannot do things any differently. I cannot emphasize this enough.